Since the topic today is fears and retirement concerns, I thought I'd put on one of my retirement shirts just for you today. Now, we hear the normal concerns in the media, and we also hear it from our own subscribers. I mean, number one is, will I outlive my money? Especially that people are living longer. At least one spouse, if you make it to retirement age, is likely to live to 90, and on average, 85, because the longer you live, the longer you live. A lot of people think, well, the average death is 79 to 80. Well, no, not for people who make it into the 60s. So that's number one. Of course, that's a valid concern. Number two, rising healthcare costs and quality of life around healthcare. You know, will I be healthy? And if I'm not, will my cost rise? And will I have enough money to stay comfortable if I do have serious health challenges? And then, of course, there's concerns about, hey, will I even get my entitlement benefits? Will they have to cut them? Or will my pension plan pay off? Or will Social Security and Medicare even be there, since they're so underfunded at the government level, federal and state and local, and et cetera? So again, these are all valid concerns. Here's what I think you should be concerned about in addition to that. People also say, well, gosh, there's falling returns. Not only do I live longer, but there's falling returns, especially on fixed income investments, which are ideal for retirement. Any good financial advisor will tell you the closer you get to retirement, have more money in bonds and utilities and more fixed income sort of things instead of stocks and real estate that are more volatile, because you can't afford to take hits when you're living off your money rather than just investing it long term. I would add a bigger warning to that. Negative returns, especially in things like stocks and real estate, and more people, and junk bonds, and more people are investing in those to offset the lower bond and fixed income yields. There's a great economic indicator from John Husman. It has nothing to do with my demographic up and down trends and in our long-term forecast. It just says simply, if you buy stocks at the level of price to earnings yields today, the model says you will lose 2 to 3% a year over the next 10 years. This model's been very accurate long term. That means you could lose cumulative, with compounding, 25 up to 35% of money you have in risk assets like junk bonds, real estate, and especially stocks. That's my biggest concern. Not just living longer, but people will be losing money on their portfolios instead of making more modest returns. Another one, you got to look at the fact that the best way to deal with entitlements that have been massively overpromised with smaller generations in most developed countries, the best way is to extend out retirement age from 65 up towards 75, say over the next decade or two. Germany's already raised it from 65 to 67. One of our Australian subscribers said, seems like Australia every year or so is raising it another 6 months. Governments are going to be forced to do this in my scenario, because this downturn will expose the fact that they really cannot pay off the entitlements. They only look like they can because economists tend to put rosy rates of returns and never factor in a recession. Well, we're going to get both on the downside very likely in the years ahead. Now, this is the greatest risk in the next 3 to 5 years when our economic indicators are more down. So this is something for older people with more assets to worry about when it comes on the negative returns side. Now, when it comes to raising the retirement ages, this is something the younger you are, the more you should worry about. The more likely this is going to happen by the time you retire. And, so that, you may be thinking about retiring at 65 and living off your assets and Social Security and healthcare and Medicare for, maybe 20 years or so. No, it might be 70 or 75 by the time you come along. So you're going to have to work longer and earn longer and pay into the system more and get less out. This is the only way to resolve this. And then the final thing, and we do get some of our subscribers mentioning this, boredom. This is what people should be concerned about. Now, I know that I have a few friends and relatives that have retired, like in their early to mid 60s, and are happy. They're happy traveling more. They're happy going fishing or whatever they do. They don't have any regrets. I also know a lot of, especially my business friends and stuff that are older, they retire, and a lot of them go back to work or start their own business or something because they're bored to death. I mean, how much golf can you play? So I think this is a real thing people should think about. You don't have to 100% retire or not. I already work out of my home and live in bathrobes and polo shirts most of the time. As I get older, what I just look at, I would never want to retire unless my health got impaired too much. I would always want to work. I might switch my focus of work to something more interesting or broader. I might work 30 hours a week instead of 50. There's all types of things I could do, but I advise people to think twice about just not working at all. Continue to work. That will make your assets last longer. That will protect you against retirement ages rising anyway. It may be forced on you. And I think those are the things you should worry about. There's not much we can do about the fact that our governments are so overpromised in entitlements and deficits that they might even default for the first time. And again, a lot of pension plans may not meet their targets and may have to cut benefits as well. And again, returns are going to go, even without my great downturn and reset. Good models say stock returns and risk asset returns are going to be zero to negative in the years to come. So how do you grow your money? You just have to live on what you have. And the truth is, you'd be better off in high quality bonds, because in the Great Depression, they doubled in value for that decade instead of falling like real estate, commodities, and stocks. So that's the way to look at it. How do you invest to protect your capital? How do you have a different strategy in the winter season where fixed income and high quality pays off and all risk gets reset? How do you switch your portfolio to make your money last longer and preserve your capital? How do you plan for a retirement where maybe you gradually retire and still do something that's interesting to you and don't get bored? And definitely, look at the fact that the younger you are, the higher the retirement age is likely to be by the time you get there. So put that in your financial planning. If you do all of this, especially if you preserve your money now, you're going to do well. And you're going to have the capital. There is going to be a time when you can get back into risk assets, especially stocks and commodities, even in your retirement. You have to wait until there is this reset. And we're here to tell you when that's likely to be now and to warn you about it when it happens. I'm looking at the early 2020s for that. That's not that far away. We also tell you where to invest when that happens. The next global boom is not going to be across the board like the last one we had from 1983 to present. So again, look at retirement positively and look at the real risk and look at the most important risk and the ones that you can control.